Now, turning to business news, our business editor, Charles Pellegrin, has joined us on set. One of the other items on the agenda of the NATO summit will be the organization's budget, with a more ambitious financial package expected from members. Charles.
That's right, Solange. Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said on Friday that member countries will agree to invest a minimum of 2% of their GDP on defense every year. This replaces a previous pledge made in 2014 after Russia's annexation of Crimea that set a target of 2% spending by 2024. This will add pressure on members to step up their defense spending, especially as many have so far fallen short. In 2022, for instance, only 7 allies actually reached the 2% target. The United States, which represents 70% of the alliance's defense on expenditure, was one of them at 3.46%, as well as the UK, which is NATO's second biggest spender, representing 6% of expenditure. Among the other 5 are Poland and the 3 Baltic countries, which border Russia, so that makes more sense. And some of Europe's biggest budgets fell short of that target, like France, Italy, Germany, and Spain, as you can see there. And among those at the bottom of the rankings is Luxembourg at 0.62% of GDP spent on defense. Nevertheless, the percentage of GDP metric shouldn't be the be-all and end-all metric for military investments. Defending Luxembourg's defense spending in front of EU lawmakers last month, the country's defense minister actually explained that if the Baltic states had the same GDP as Luxembourg, they'd have to spend 4 to 5 times more than they do now.
Let's zero in on Germany, Charles. How are they planning on increasing their military investment?
Well, the invasion of Ukraine has forced Berlin into a dramatic policy change when it comes to defense spending, with Chancellor Olaf Scholz announcing in its wake the creation of a special armed forces fund of 100 billion euros. And this fund will be put to contribution next year to fulfill that 2% pledge, in addition to the regular budget fitting under 52 billion euros for defense. Over 19 billion euros will be taken from the fund to reach a total spend of 71 billion euros, which should be enough to reach this 2% commitment. But in the mid to long term, there is uncertainty over how Berlin will be able to keep it up. The IFO Institute in Munich estimates that the regular military budget will have to increase markedly because the fund could run out of funds as soon as 2026, something that could be difficult politically in Germany, considering the ruling coalition has reimposed a limit on net new borrowing after a 3-year break because of the pandemic.
Finally, from you, Charles, the heat wave that's hitting parts of France is having an impact on construction sites.
And this is likely the first heat wave of many. Temperatures climbing up to nearly 40 degrees in some parts of the southeast of France on construction sites. Inspectors have been multiplying their safety checks on outdoor work. Camille Knight and our colleagues from France 2 take a look at one site in Lyon.
Stifling heat in Lyon. With a temperature of 35 degrees Celsius, it was the warmest city in France on Monday. For construction workers, there's little way of avoiding the heat.
Our work's quite intense physically, so every time it just weighs on us a bit more.
During the hottest hours of the day, work inspectors carry out checks on construction sites.
Here we're at about 44.6 degrees. That means when the employees are working in the sun, it's almost 50 degrees.
Water bottles are compulsory. One of the site managers assures the inspector that his employees always have access to one. But their hut doesn't have electricity, the fridge doesn't work, and there's no ventilation.
It's very hot, yes, but we're already used to working in these conditions.
If the work environment is deemed unsuitable, employers can be sued up to 10,000 euros per employee.
They're basically in spaces that overheat, and their body temperature has no way of decreasing, so it puts them at risk.
Is that illegal?
Yes, it's a real problem, and it's illegal.
Inspectors incite employers to adjust working schedules and to allow for regular breaks. Not an easy task when tight deadlines are involved.
I mean, we can stop working for maybe a day or two, but we can't afford to do that for 8 days straight. Construction needs to go on.
Though there are measures that employers need to comply with in France, there's no obligation to shut construction sites down, regardless of how extreme the temperatures are.
That's it for the business segment, Solange.
Thank you, Charles.